So welcome guys to Practical Happiness at Work. Thank you guys for joining me. I'm going to try to do these. I plan to do them every month. So for now, we may stick to the Wednesday in this time frame. And I'm super excited to have you guys. I know this was kind of a last minute one. And I think I've learned that I'll need to steadily promote it on different platforms to get it on people's calendars if they can make it. So I so appreciate you guys being here. So I thought today, because it's our first one, we'll probably send this out as a video to everybody down the road. We kind of just do the foundations of the 4 practical happiness principles and how they actually apply in our work life and how leaders can apply them to the teams they manage or to themselves, because leaders go through these same experiences as we go through. And then I'll open it up to questions at the end, but if there's something you really want, just go ahead and raise your hand and I'll pop in, because it's supposed to be kind of a conversation, and hopefully that's where it leads to. But I thought today we just sort of kind of start with a foundation for what these monthly meetups will be about. So anyway, if you haven't, this is the book, Practical Happiness. I know at least a couple of you have it. I don't know if all of you have it, but it's 4 principles to improve your life. It came out January 4th, so it's new. So I'm going to go over the principles, but I wanted us initially just to sort of answer that big, broad umbrella question. What is happiness? What is happiness for? What does that really mean? And our society seems to put happiness under this one huge umbrella. We like to say happiness is this one singular feeling, when in this book I talk about it's really bigger than you think, and it's a lot of feelings, and especially in the workplace, it's a lot of feelings. So it's just a short definition of happiness. I like to define happiness is it's a moment that we just naturally feel good. And so what does naturally feel good mean? It can mean a lot of different things depending on what just happened the moment before. Sometimes it's just like feeling a teeny bit better. And then sometimes it's feeling in a more, what I kind of call joyful or high energetic form of happiness. So again, happiness is just, so for this purpose, let's think of it as happiness is when we naturally feel good. And the premise of this book is that what is practical happiness? And practical happiness is realistic happiness. And I think at work, that gets tested a lot, because work, I sometimes will say work is a 4-letter word, but there's a lot of 4-letter words we like love. Love is a 4-letter word too. And so it's not that it's a bad thing, but it's not going to just always be happy. It's not a constant pep rally. It's not a constant feel good. We're going to have moments that we're kind of like pulling our hair out. So it is work. So the 4 practical happiness principles actually cover that. So practical happiness is ultimately about, the problem is we always think about happiness as that big singular umbrella feeling, when in reality, happiness is a lot of different feelings. It's many, many things, but it's also knowing how to manage our happiness zappers. And those are the things that take away a little bit of our happiness, a little at a time, and it just kind of seeps at us. And we'll discuss that a little bit more in the different principles, because we're going to experience those happiness zappers at work. That's just part of life, because we experience them everywhere. We experience them in even the most happiest of situations. So they still show up, because they are, again, part of life. And most of our happiness doesn't depend on getting rid of the zappers. It's about how we choose to manage the zappers. And so in the book, we actually talk about a zap map, a zapper management action plan, which we won't really go into today, but it's a little bit about that. So when we talk about work and happiness, I like to talk about the 2 different cultures. Every organization has a big macro culture. So the macro culture can be wonderful and great. And that's the things that include, does my organization pay a competitive salary? Are we competitive within our market? Do we have a good benefit plan? Am I worried that if myself or my spouse or my kids that are on my insurance plan, if they get sick, am I going to be able to, make sure that their needs are met? Does my organization have vacation time? Do they have a work-life balance elements. So those are those big, broad things. And if an organization doesn't have that, it is harder to create a happier work environment. Does the organization have an open door policy? Where employees feel free to feel free and safe to share their ideas and thoughts and innovation and all those pieces. And the top part maybe the C team does have that policy. I was working at, well, I'll just be honest, I was at Staples at the time. I don't think any of these people are there anymore. And Staples at the C level professed this huge open door policy, but I was at a sales meeting, probably had 700-800 people at it. And they had with one of the big VPs of that division. So because Staples had more than one division, you would have these microcultures within those divisions. So there's a lot of microcultures dependent on that specific leader. So you, even in the C-suite, you'll have different microcultures that are part of creating a happy culture. And so even though Staples had this open door policy and we're at our big national sales meeting, somebody who was super new got up and we had a big VP up and he was saying, yeah, ask me anything. And this guy went up to the mic and asked a question and the VP didn't like it. And he didn't last the full length of the meeting because our division really didn't have an open door policy. Now, if you hadn't been there very long, you wouldn't have known that. If you had, there were people like me going, please don't ask me to go ask a question because I don't want to, or give me the question to ask this VP because I don't want to be in the hot seat. So every organization then will go into multiple microcultures. And the microculture, you can actually not have a great big umbrella culture, a great macro culture, but if you have the right microculture, that team is loyal and be there. So anyway, so we deal with these macro and micro cultures within an organization, and they all contribute to the happiness of that organization. If you have a leader that is not a good micro leader, I don't care how great the big umbrella culture is, you'll probably have higher turnover. You'll have employee not satisfaction with your employees. You will definitely lose in productivity. These things are going to happen in that micro culture, even if the macro culture is greater. If the macro culture isn't so great, but you have a great leader, that team may be super solid, super loyal, super intact. I mean, in those scenarios, and those all contribute to happiness, in the workplace. So we're going to kind of talk about more in the micro cultures about how to lead, and or as you go through your own career track, think about these principles. So principle one is happiness is personal, and in the workplace culture we talk about that in the terms of getting people on the bus in the right seat. It's sort of what your DNA is. So I was always somebody who was out and about, doing a job. I forgot what, I think I was doing a part-time job in doing surveys, telemarketing surveys. And so I'm stuck in a cube for 4 hours and I'm going nuts because that is not my DNA. I'm somebody who needs to be out with people. I need to be doing things. I need to be creative. Sitting there reading a script and asking people questions and filling in whatever I was filling in on a computer screen was not my DNA. So I was in the wrong seat of the wrong bus. They actually then started having me go out and do field surveys, and I did much better at that part-time job because it matched my skill set. Now, just because somebody is good at a task, it may not make them happy because happiness is personal. And as we go into principle 3, you're going to see that that also can change. But happiness is personal. So finding out what somebody's not only good at, but what they want to do is super important in your career. And you may discover, now that does not mean a manager or leader shouldn't sometimes try to push somebody if you think somebody has a talent and they're just scared to go try it. But it does mean if they're giving you too much pushback, they may be like, just not interested in that. Doesn't make me happy. And so there has to be that respect in the workplace with that. So principle 2 is talking about happiness zappers. So happiness zappers are manageable. We're all going to experience happiness zappers, and I divide them into 5 categories. So there is unhappiness, which that would include things like loss, which obviously death is a loss. We can certainly lose a coworker to death, but it can also include things like when a manager gets transferred. Let's say we're working for somebody we love, they get a promotion and we lose this manager we love. That team does usually have to go through a grieving process. They may be sad. Some of them may be downright unhappy, probably depending on who the replacement leader is. So other things can create unhappiness. So unhappiness for an employee would be if they're dealing with a family situation, maybe a divorce, maybe they're having a health situation. All of those things can create a loss that somebody is having to work through and go through a grieving process. I think how an organization supports an employee during that really does will create either loyalty, or it gets the person thinking that they just don't care and they become unengaged. And the worst thing that happens in the workplace when people are unengaged is when they start talking to other teammates about how they felt like that they were not valued and they were mistreated. And so therefore it becomes a ripple effect. So again, when a leader, whether it's at the micro or the macro level, can effectively manage when an employee is dealing with unhappiness, whether it's at work or in their personal life, that really will determine to some degree a bond they have with that company and a loyalty and a commitment to it. Now, the other zappers are stress. If an employee is feeling like too much stress on their team because they've either got too many to-dos or maybe they don't have a good leader. We do say people quit because of leadership, and there's a lot of truth to that, because a lot of organizations now say, oh, you did XYZ job really great, we're not going to have you lead the team. Just because they did the job really great doesn't mean that they should lead the team. That's not always the case. Sometimes it is the case, but they're still going to need training, and they're going to need mentorship, and they're going to need all of those things. A lot of organizations do not offer that now. So that becomes a challenge. Are they motivated? Do they have the resources? Do they have people around them to help them create, to work with that through that stress piece? But if an employee is feeling too much stress, a lot of times employees go to their leader and they say, hey, I am looking for my next challenge. I want to grow with the organization. I want to do more. And the leader goes, great. So what happens is we start giving them more tasks to do. We give them, you can be on this committee, you can do this, you can do all these different things, but we don't take anything off their plate. We just keep adding to their stress. And if we're creating a time management stress, a time management challenge, that is not a career challenge. That's a time management challenge. And so that can add to stress. And then they're going to have their personal life stress. That's just a piece of life. Or if you have friction on a team, that can add stress if the team doesn't feel bonded and isn't working together cohesively. So again, leaders have to figure out how do we bond a team, even if it's a casual bond, but there has to be a bond, or ultimately the team doesn't function as a team. You have a whole bunch of individuals. One of my favorite quotes came from one of my salespeople. We had a team, our boss needed a team kind of goal, but one of my friends who always she was like a racehorse, wanted to always win the gold medal. She was good. But she said, sales is not a team sport. That was her mindset towards it. But occasionally we did have to operate as a team, and she did always contribute because she was always a leader. But you have to understand, again, that mindset and that happiness is personal for somebody. The other one is fear. So a lot of times people, and let's say you see a teammate or you're leading somebody who is ready for their next challenge, but they're afraid to apply. A lot of our fears are here in our head. And so how do we manage that and navigate that happiness zapper at work? Another one of our happiness zappers that we deal with is just chaos. Sometimes, you've got your day plan, your boss decides you're going to have a different day. So that's chaos. And then annoyances. If you have an employee that's been really a good employee for a long time, and then all of a sudden they're just annoyed with everything, it's not like it's life-changing, but they're just annoyed. Their mood's usually de-elevated. Probably they've outgrown their job, and they may or may not be recognizing that, which kind of leads us into principle 3, which is happiness changes as you change. We're all going to change. And sometimes in the workplace, our life changes, like if we have a new baby, or if we're having to take care of an elderly parent, or we decided we want to be a we have a new hobby or something that we are like, hey, I want to become a great fencer. It's been on my bucket list and I'm going to be spending hours a week doing this because I just want to do it. Whatever it is, our life is going to change because we change, and our career needs are going to change because we change. One of them is boredom, and a wise leader knows that. And then they start helping that person with evolving their career if they can within the organization. But sometimes it's just, there's a difference when somebody gets out of college and they're super excited and gung ho, and somebody who's like, yeah, I'm retiring in 2 years. The person who's retiring in 2 years is probably just like, hey, I want to be your steady Eddie. And I'm just kind of waiting until I'm not here anymore because I want to go golf or sleep late or do whatever it is I want to do or become an artist. And again, an organization needs to be aware of that. And too often we're not. Too often we're expecting everybody to act the same way or do the same things. And sometimes we're just at different phases of our life. Like I said, somebody may be in just a job that they want to be content at because they want to be a great Girl Scout mom or Boy Scout dad or baseball dad or whatever that is. And that when the organization, again, works with their employees on these things, you create a lot of loyalty. And then principle 4 sort of, links into the other 3 principles, that happiness is bigger than you think. So, and that sort of also gets into personality types. I was having a conversation with somebody this past week, and she was talking about a friend of hers who I think does hostage negotiation for one of like FBI or something. I don't remember which organization, and had just been promoted to that. And she was like, we were talking about their type of happiness. And I said, they actually do experience happiness. Their happiness is relief when the situation is over. They have to be creative in figuring out how they're going to negotiate this process. They have to be motivated to get it done. It's an honorable job. And I just named you 4 types of happiness that are connected to a job that, doesn't necessarily always feel happy because you're probably dealing with somebody who's not so happy who kidnaps someone. So happiness happens in practically every job we have, but we have to, in an organization, recognize the different types of happiness that different people will be experiencing based on, in part, their personality type and their DNA, so the type of job they have within the organization, and in part on what the actual tasks are. Sometimes we're just relieved that we got a project off of our desk and it is it's off our desk and it's done. Sometimes we're satisfied because we get told we did a good job, and everybody at work wants to feel valued. So again, I just gave you guys 3 types of happiness that we can all feel at work. So happiness, again, is bigger than we think. And when we start incorporating these other words into our workplace culture, our teammates and the teams we lead are going to feel those emotions more because they're going to start connecting them to feeling good. And again, the feeling good is sometimes it's just a little bit better than what you felt before. So those are the 4 principles and sort of how they overlay within our professional life. And I know I sort of went through some of those, a little quicker, and there's things that we can certainly deep dive on any of the 1 topics, and we will do more of those as the months go on. But I did want to open up the last 10 minutes or so to see if you guys had anything you want to add, or anything you want to add. And I know you're all on mute except Bobette.
Am I still not on mute? I'm sorry.
But you were so quiet. We didn't know that. But you can be. So now we just want to be off mute if everybody wants to chime in. If anybody wants to chime in.
So I would like to chime in, Pamela, because I'm doing a series of webinars with some other people. It's really about mental health in the workplace, and I think happiness plays into that a lot. So you have any practical tips for employers and how they can encourage that?
Well, I think a lot of it, again, is just about the vocabulary, and it's getting people, if you want to look at that, happiness is bigger than you think principle. And actually, if you go to sohp.com/gift, you can download the 31 types of happiness. a worksheet that you can let people have. And it's getting people thinking about all the times they're feeling good at work versus when they're going to be annoyed. I mean, we're all going to be annoyed with our jobs, that we have to recognize that's, you're not going to be just giddy happy at work all the time.
What was that website again?
Just sohp.com/gift, GIFT.
Thank you.
And that gives you the whole 31 types of happiness. And we have an app that I need to get with my app guy on, because
I'm on some sort of shopping site.
You probably went to SHOP.
Oh, well, was it supposed to be SHIP?
It's SO is in of Society of
HP.
Happy People. Yeah, .com.
Sorry.
No. I actually, Rose was kind and just put it into the comments. So that would be my easiest simple tip, in reminding people that happiness, again, is sometimes about feeling just a little bit better, which might mean you're relieved a project is done, or you feel valued, that your boss said you did a good job. The number one complaint people actually still have, pandemic and not, is that their bosses do not recognize the work they do and even say thank you. It's actually shocking sometimes, and in the virtual world, it probably got worse. I haven't seen a recent stat on it as to how often someone's boss does not even have a conversation with them that's not in a group setting. So like a one-on-one conversation. So a lot of times it's just those simple acts of saying thank you and feeling good. But in a broader sense, for that microculture, it's creating that team bond, but again, expanding that vocabulary in the workplace about what happiness is, and that piece. In the broader sense, it's about, like I said, helping manage happiness, Zappers and those types of things, because they go into principle 4 about how people feel. I know I gave you a very convoluted answer, Nancy.
That's okay. And I'm going to actually send you a message. It won't let me submit my email. I can fill it in, but then when I hit request,
I have your email address, so I will just send.
Okay, I'd love that. That'd be really helpful. Thanks, Pam.
Send you that. But if you give people that link, it should access. I don't know why your email wasn't taking. So anyway, so that's, like I said, it's kind of a long answer, but it is a way to, again, think about how happiness is bigger than you think. And I think in the workplace, we just link it to like, oh, are we having fun? Or did we laugh? Or did they give us lunch? And that's not that bigger feeling of happiness. I mean, those can make us, happy for the little moment, but it really is about how did we manage our happiness Zappers at work? Are we proactive in that? And again, expanding that definition.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes, and I hope to get to the replay of your event that I signed up for yesterday, but
it just was complimentary, and I'm like, I know you're going to have some nuggets that will be helpful for me. So
it's yeah, and the book has lots of stories for that kind of thing too. It is filled with stories, which I think make that they make those principles come to life.
Gotcha.
With the stories, and some of them are workplace focused. In fact, April was one of our storytellers.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you, Pam.
Did anyone else have anything that they might want to add, or?
No, I was just going to say, I was laughing when you said that, because actually a colleague of mine had a birthday on Monday. And I have to say, one of the things I miss about being virtual is that it's harder, or at least in some environments, to celebrate those things, right? I used to take for granted being able to go into the office, and just decorate somebody's cube or do whatever. And so I told her, I said, you let me know it's your birthday. So we have a cake date at a future date when we're in person sometime later this year.
This is a great wrap up. So I'm going to share your actual story. I'm going to read April's story out of the book. It's under celebrations, which is one of the 31 types of happiness, which we should do at work when we get wins, whatever our department determines as win. But this is April's story. She said, I'm a big celebration person, is how April described herself. If you've got something you want to celebrate, I'm in. I especially love celebrating birthdays. So it confuses me that some people don't want to celebrate their birthday. At work, I joke with people who don't want to celebrate their birthday. Your birthday is really not about you. It's about the fact that the rest of us want cake. Even if you don't don't come to the party on your birthday, I still want to have birthday cake. So that was April's story, because that's true. Some of us just want to celebrate someone else's birthday. So, or anything actually, because I think at work, anytime we can celebrate, we have to take advantage of that, which is a high vibration type of happiness. And like I said, relief is a little bit lower, but both are still worth celebrating. So anything else? Hi, Cindy, Kristen, anything else? So on that note, I want to thank you guys for being part of the first Practical Happiness at Work. If you have ideas of what you'd like for us to deep dive into next month, let me know. I have an idea. I just did a poll, and chronically cranky people seem to be our biggest happiness zapper at work. So happiness zapper. So I think that may be our topic, but if a better one shows up, let me know. And if you found this valuable, please invite your friends. Like I said, we'll keep growing it. And I know we have some replayers. So replayers, please, again, send me your comments as well. And I'm wishing you guys a happy week.
Thanks, Pam.